HashiCorp seems to be trying to resolve some things that people have been complaining about for a very long time. Everything comes back to relationships. You break up, and after you break up, you just try and show, I'm fine, I'm totally fine. I've wanted this for so long in Terraform. It's similar to almost like monkey patching in other languages.
My reaction to this whole thing is because I think monkey patching is such a bad practice.
So this was really interesting. Again, I think a recurring theme that I'm starting to see more and more of is that competition is good. HashiCorp seems to be picking up the pace on suddenly acknowledging and trying to resolve some things that people have been complaining about for a very long time. We see that in the forthcoming 1.9, which I'll talk about right after this. But in 1.10, they're adding this concept of ephemeral values. And ephemeral values will not be stored in the state. And that was the whole problem, right? That's why OpenTofu finally addressed the issue about having encrypted state files for multiple reasons. One of them is your secrets may contain state. The other is it helps you have a cryptographic certainty that the state wasn't tampered. As other researchers have shown, you can actually tamper your state and have Terraform apply it even when that data wasn't shown in the plan file itself. So basically, the Terraform state is not reconciled with the desired state in the source control. And if you can tamper the state file, then you can impact the infrastructure. So encryption is still important. That said, I do like this idea. Let's not even have the secrets in there to begin with. And that's what they're experimenting with in 1.10. On a running theme of competition is good, everything comes back to relationships. You break up, and after you break up, you just try and show, I'm fine, I'm totally fine, I don't need you. I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Everything's good. HashiCorp has a new spunk to their step. In the release notes for the beta 1, they talk about adding template strings. I've wanted this for so long in Terraform, and Terraform used to support template strings. And it was in a provider, but then they stopped making versions of the provider for M1s and M2s for ARM, but you could fork that repo and do it yourself. So we've been doing that at Cloud Posse. And then there's a long thread, I believe, in HashiCorp on like why they're not supporting template strings, like rationalizing it over and over and over again. And then now suddenly mea culpa, okay, we're adding template strings. Or is it just to force incompatibility between HashiCorp Terraform, BSL license Terraform, and OpenTofu, unless OpenTofu now adds this function. Ultimately, good for users, so no complaints there. I just find the timing so curious. I admit I first skipped this whole part here that said RFC, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. We need exactly this feature right now. This is going to merge soon. Awesome. But no, it was an RFC, so this is not there yet. What this is a proposal to support a convention similar to overrides, but based on the tool chain, if you will. OpenTofu has a flavor of HCL that isn't directly compatible, perhaps, with the HashiCorp flavor of HCL for Terraform. So how do you reconcile those differences? So taking a step back, if you're familiar with the overrides concept in Terraform, it's really valuable. It's similar to almost like monkey patching in other languages. It allows you to create a copy of the desired code and only change the parts of it that you want to change locally without having to impact the upstream. So overrides work that way. You create a _overrides.tf file in your repository, and you can safely pull down or vendor in upstream code into your repository and change how that works. So with the tofu extension, it is that, but for tofu. You can create files, .tofu vars, and then .tofu vars.json would be read only by OpenTofu.
All these concepts, doing this two different ways and having override files and things that take precedence over one another and everything, just keep leading me to believe that a declarative language is not the proper way to be deploying infrastructure. Like, these are all programming concepts that we're trying to hack into a declarative language because we don't have support for things that are, composability and interfaces and inheritance and, all of those kinds of things that we have in programming languages.
But even in the programming languages, you still find yourself monkey patching. I mean, even in the formal language.
No, I mean, not if things are implemented in an object-oriented way, right? You would essentially have an interface that says, I need a state interface that would get passed in that says like write to state, and then you would be able to pass in your own implementation of a state provider that does what you need it to do in this case, rather than have crazy overrides where you have to write the code over again.
I don't know. It's still like, take your example of the interface, but the interface now doesn't expose a checksum of my state, and I wanted that, but I can't get it into the core, and I need this done yesterday, so I can just use monkey patching to now add a function that emits the, say, checksum of that state. I don't have to fork the whole thing. I don't have to copy the whole thing. I don't have to rewrite the whole thing. I can just, depending on my language, monkey patch it. This is similar to that, in my opinion. And you see that even in the formal languages and frameworks that I've been looking at.
My reaction to this whole thing is because I think monkey patching is such a bad practice because it changes the user expectation of what global things should do in general without understanding the whole thing. So,
no, monkey patches are an escape hatch. And this is an escape. And use escape hatches as escape hatches. Don't use them as your design architecture.
Yeah, and I guess I just keep coming back to the more things that we release so that we can do monkey patching, if you want to call it that in this case, the more indicator it is to me that we're using the wrong base technology to do some of these things. Like this is my philosophical discussion. The whole declarative language, like the fact that how many hoops we jump through to do conditionals in HCL, and how many things we do to be able to override certain parts of code in certain scenarios, and all of that just seems, more and more I see this, more and more it leads me to believe that this is the wrong technology solution to the problem, like long term. So I don't want to get off on a whole tangent on that. Sorry, I just was, it's just that was my gut reaction to yet another way to patch something.